Welcome to another day of mathematics. Today we're going to learn how to add and subtract polynomials and to multiply a polynomial by a monomial. Now, first of all, what a polynomial is just a multi-term expression. It has multiple variables, usually all the same variable though. I mean, they will be actually, so only x, but some will be squared, some will be cubed, so with higher exponents. And it's multi-term, so let's look at some. Easiest ways to look at some. Let's add and subtract some polynomials. The process is very simple in the sense of what you will do is you will just look at common exponents and add them with common exponents. So what I would recommend doing is, if you look at this right here, first of all, this plus in between the two parentheses means that the signs are not going to change on anything. I really can ignore the sets of parentheses because this here is a plus. That right there that I'm pointing at is a plus. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually combine the 9w squared, the terms that have the same exponent. So this has a w squared, this has a w squared. So I'll combine the 9w squared to the 7w squared. In other words, I can rearrange and group the two like terms. I'm going to add the w to the 9w. So I'm going to add the w to the 9w. And lastly, I'm going to add the 6 to the 9. I'm going to add the 6 to the 9. So I've grouped the two w squared terms, and I get 16w squared. I group the two w terms, I get 10w. And I grouped the two non-variable terms, and I get 15. And so I come over here and I type in that. And this is probably the hardest part, I think, of this lesson, is just typing in the expression, because it takes a little while to hit all these keystrokes. GW plus 15, and you hit submit. Right? Now, this one here is another good one for as an example, because what I want to emphasize is this is a minus sign. That minus sign is going to go to both of these. So you're actually going to be minusing this one. So make sure you change the sign on everything in that second set of parentheses if this is a minus sign. If you'll notice, there's only one s squared term. So I have that 2s squared that's going to be by itself. Then I have this 9s. So I have a positive 9s, and I'm minusing 7s, minusing 7s. Then I also have this 3 in the first polynomial, and I am minusing. Remember, watch the signs very carefully. Minus the 1, minus the 1. So again, that was the only s squared term I had, so nothing combines with it. Then I have 9s's minus 7 more, which would be 2s's. And then I have 3 minus 1, which would be 2. And then again, I think the hardest part of this is just typing in the expression. Oops, see, I already forgot the plus symbol there. Plus 2s plus 2. Okay, now you will get some that have multiple terms. I'm going to jump ahead. So like this one here, first one has 3 terms, the second one has 2 terms. But again, what you're looking for is exponents. This has an exponent of 3 on this w. This has an exponent of 3 on the w. So again, I would just add those two together. And a lot of this you could probably do without even writing it on a piece of paper, because I know that 9w cubes plus 8 more is 17w cubes. Do not change the exponent, by the way, on the variable, because we're just adding those like terms. Then I'm going to add that to, well, I have 7w squareds in the first polynomial, but none in the next. So there's nothing that combines with this. So I just type in 7w squared. Then plus, I have a 4w, and I have plus a positive 5w. Positive 4 plus a positive 5 more is 9w. And you notice how I take the time to say a positive 4 plus a positive 5, so I don't mess up anywhere on my signs. So let's go to one more, and then I'm going to talk about the next topic, which is multiplying by a monomial. Could do this one, but I wanted to get a one with 3 and 3 terms, because usually it will pop up with 3 and 3 terms, and maybe it won't. That's just funny. All right, we'll stick with this one. It looks like it even keeps going back to the same one. But again, the main thing I want to emphasize is watch the signs very closely. You'll notice I only have a single g cubed term. There's no other g cubed term, so I type in 4g, hit my exponent key, cubed, not squared. And by the way, I'm hitting the little arrow over key. If you'll notice, I'm still in the exponent position up there in the top. I need to exit out of there. Now I only have this 8g squared term, so I minus 8g squared. And then I have a minus 8g and a minus another g. So be careful. I have a minus 8g minus one more g. I have a minus 9g. And lastly, I have a 1 minus a minus 1. So be careful. I have a positive 1 minus a negative 1. So when you're minus a negative, it becomes plus 1. So it ends up being plus 2. And I hit submit. So be very careful just with your signs. I think that's the hardest thing with this one. The next thing I want to emphasize is what we call multiplying a polynomial by a monomial. Again, this is not that difficult. Probably the hardest thing once you get the concept is being able to watch or be able to type it in. The most important thing here is when we multiply by a monomial, we're multiplying and we have to take that monomial that's on the outside of the parentheses and multiply it by every term on the inside of the parentheses. So it's just simply distributed into that first term and to the second term. So I have a negative times a negative, and I take care of my signs first. It's going to become a positive number. 3 times 4 is 12. And then u squared times u squared, that's a total of 4 u's. We add the exponents. Remember your properties of exponents. U squared times u squared is going to be u to the 4th. Now I'm going to multiply this negative 3u squared times this second term. So a negative times a negative is positive. I take care of the signs first. 3 times 3 is 9. And then I have a u squared that doesn't have any more u's being multiplied with it. There's my final solution. And I type that in there. 12u squared. I tab over or arrow over 9. Nope, not 9. I got to hit plus first. Plus 9u squared. And submit. What did I do wrong? Oh, I did u squared and it's u to the 4th. So be very careful. I wrote u to the 4th. See u to the 4th right there. I wrote it and then I typed in u squared and it's u to the 4th. I did everything right and it's not iExcel's fault. I know a lot of you hate iExcel, but all you got to do is be very, very, very careful that you type things in correctly. I'm going to jump to one that hopefully is a little harder, a little higher up there. You're not going to see those, I don't think. So let's go back to, they're going to do it again. They're just going to give me the exact same ones. All right, we'll just do some very quickly. Again, sometimes you don't even need to do it on paper because this is simply just 6 times each of these 3 terms. 6 times h squared is a 6h to the squared because there's no additional h's on the outside that I'm multiplying in. Plus, if I can get the plus key, like I said, that's probably, I think, the hardest part. 6h, and I got that by multiplying this 6 times that h. And then a positive times a negative is minus, and 6 times 1 is 6. Submit. All right, here's a better one. So a negative 2 times a negative 2 is a positive 4. I'm even going to put a plus there just to see if it will mark it wrong. It's a positive 4, and then I'm going to do the f times the f squared. So I have 1f on the outside times 2 more on the inside. That's a total of f with 3 as an exponent because there's 3 f's being multiplied together. Now I have a negative times a positive is a minus. I have the 2 times the 1, and remember there's always a 1 there, so 2 times 1 is 2. F times one more F will be a F squared. Arrow over, and then a -2 times a -2, or negative times a negative, is positive, and 2 times 2 is 4, and then an F times no more F's. It's not 0 F's, it's just no more, it's just no more F's to multiply. I have a single F, and then I hit submit. Let's see, again, I'm going to see if it marks it wrong with the positive in front. I hope it doesn't. Sorry, incorrect, it does. F 4F cubed minus 2F squared plus 4F. So I did everything right, just don't put the positive there. It thinks you're trying to add it to something in front, and there's nothing to add in front. But I just wanted to do that to make sure in case you'd make that same mistake. I just wanted to verify that I did the negative times a negative, which comes out positive, which you don't need the plus in front of that first one. So I got it. Don't put a plus in front of it. So here, let's do one more and we'll call it good. A -2 times a -3 is going to be a +6, so don't put the plus symbol in front of the first one. There's no extra g's times the g squared, so that's going to be a g squared. Total of 2 g's. And then I have a -2 times a +5, that's going to be a -10. And then the no extra g's on either of them, that's your final solution. So first term times first term, and that outer term times the first term, and then the outer term times the second term, and submit. And we're good. So again, it should become easier and easier to do as you work along this. You just learn to look at them very closely and just type them in. And I'm not sure what I put a plus a -6. That probably would have marked it wrong. I'm glad I looked at my answer, and so forth. So again, it's not too hard. -8, that's the -4 times the 2. I have 1 g on the out, 2 g's on the inside in that first term, so I get a g cubed. I have a negative times a positive, that's negative. I have a 4 times a 3, that's 12. I have 1 g times another g, that's a g squared. I have a -4 times a +1, that's a -4. I have a g times no more g, so that's a single g, and submit. And it's just that simple. If you have any questions, please do email me or log on, and I will help you. And again, just be very, very careful when it comes to Excel. It's not, computers can only do what they do, and they're very exact.